I have a garden, and right now I'm digging up some beets. These are my very own homegrown beets, and I'm going to show you a really tasty dish to make the most of all that beet goodness. Stick with me. Hi, and welcome to my kitchen. Today I've been out in the garden picking beets. These are the beets that grew in my own backyard, and I know so because I just dug them for you. So I've got these beets, and I'm going to use the beets as well as the greens, although some of them don't have any greens because the rabbits chewed them off. So we're not the only ones who love beets and their greens. So the beet greens, we've got enough here, and that's going to be wonderful. So I'm going to make you a dish which you could make all winter long, where we're going to roast cubed beets and tofu, which I've got wrapped up here, and some fresh thyme, which also I just grabbed a bunch of stems from my garden. But you can just use whatever. You can use thyme, you can use rosemary. It's absolutely a very flexible dish. And then I'm going to roast it with some olive oil and balsamic vinegar in this big pan. So I'm going to show you how to do the cutting. Now that that's done, my work is over really. I'm just going to throw in a few stems of thyme. I don't have to bother to chop because it's just going to infuse into the dish. I'm going to sprinkle in some salt, some pepper. Now don't skimp on the olive oil. Olive oil is really good for you, and it's going to add a lot to this dish. So it's going to give it flavor as well as richness, and it's going to carry all that flavor from the thyme throughout the dish. So you can see this is a beautiful way to get everything into the pan and use one pan to cook everything. So it makes my rule, that which is once you turn the oven on, if you turn the oven on, make sure that you're using the oven to its fullest. So as long as you've got a pan of something going in the oven, go ahead and add a few things to it and make a complete meal. So I'm just going to cover this with foil, and I'm going to roast it, and I'll be right back. Welcome back. And now I'm about to bring my beets and tofu out of the oven. It's so exciting. What some time in the oven can do to a pan full of root vegetables. Oh, I wish you could smell it. Thyme, beets, it's just wonderful. What I'm going to do that's also very time saving is I'm just going to chop up those beet greens that I cleaned up. And see, I've rolled those up so that I can cut them quickly. Just a quick little coarse chop. And I don't have to go with doing these in any separate pan. So I'm just going to throw them in the hot pan. And I'm going to pick out these thyme stems because I don't need them anymore. Those can go over here. And I've got a spatula so that I can just toss the greens in with the hot beets and tofu. And you see how that's going to have residual heat, and then I'll put the foil back on for a minute or two. And yes, it is hot. The pan is hot. I'm just touching it lightly and carefully. And so I'm keeping this very simple today. After these steam a little bit in the heat of the beets and the tofu, I'm going to just drizzle on some balsamic vinegar and a little bit more olive oil and a little more salt and pepper and keep it, again, super simple. Now I could always crush in some garlic. You could always make like a Dijon vinaigrette with a little Dijon mustard whipped in there. But I don't really feel the need to adorn it too much. I just want it to stand out. And then once I've got this made, it's a delicious entree salad on its own, but you can also throw a little mayo on it and use it as a sandwich filling. I was just thinking about that, some crusty bread with these buttery, soft, roasted beets and thyme and cubes of tofu. And a beautiful, you can always go back to my aioli show and learn how to make my cashew and aquafaba aioli, and that's a great dressing for this. So after a couple of minutes, this will be steamed. So I'll just uncover it. You can see there's steam coming off of there. And see the tofu has been stained and burnished with the pigment from the beets. I'm just going to drizzle on a little bit of balsamic vinegar into the hot pan. Ooh. And a pinch or two of salt. And a little bit more pepper. And a drizzle of fresh olive oil just to kind of freshen it up after roasting. And here you have it, this luscious roasted beet and tofu entree. It's just roasted beets, thyme, and tofu with balsamic vinegar. Boy, oh boy, lots and lots of color. Just a beautiful, beautiful dish. And you can eat this any way you'd like to. I kept it simple, but again, you can make this with citrus zest, you can make it with garlic, you can make it with Asian flavors. It's just absolutely a versatile, wonderful dish that we're gonna start cooking this way. We're gonna start making more of these sort of roasted roots and hearty things where we crank the oven because it's getting cold outside. So I hope that you'll go ahead and pick some beets and go ahead and get yourself some tofu and throw it in a pan, because you know, at my house, it's all about the flavor. Come back and see me again sometime.